Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's EBC video. We are in North Dakota near Fargo here, looking out at the Red River behind us. Minnesota's on the other side over there, thinking about Mark 4 verses 35 to 41. This is a story of Jesus crossing the Sea of Galilee, and a storm comes up and Jesus calms the storm, the way Mark 4 tells us. All right, so Jesus has been teaching and we're early in his ministry, and he decides, let's go out across the lake. Now, I got to tell you, the Bible has a lot of interesting details the way Mark tells this. The first one is Jesus says to do that in the evening. And from what I understand, the evening is not exactly a great time to be crossing the Sea of Galilee. All right, we already know it might be a little dangerous. And then Jesus is actually put on the boat just as he is, Mark says, meaning he's not prepared. He's not really sort of set to go sailing across the sea. But both of those things happen, and Jesus falls asleep on a cushion. It even says on a cushion in Mark. And so now we're thinking about Jesus being calm and resting and, really doing what you would like to do on a boat. The Bible also says that there are other boats coming with Jesus at the time. But, oddly enough, that's the last time we hear of any of those other boats because a storm comes up. I want to think about this for a moment because, today, if we're thinking about the fact that there might be a little bit of rain coming down, it is starting to drizzle here, right? We go on our phones, we check the radar, we check sort of what's happening. We know how fast the wind's going to be. We know what's going to happen with the rain or the snow or whatever it is. All those things are not a mystery to us. But in Jesus' time, you wouldn't have had any of those opportunities. But you know that you've gone out across the Sea of Galilee in the evening and unprepared. And the wind comes up. And the Bible says that the boat is beginning to be swamped by the waves. And Jesus is there asleep on a cushion. And then the disciples have sort of an overreaction here. It's sort of like, do you not care that we're perishing? Is the way Mark describes that. And they get Jesus to wake up. And then Jesus, it says, rebukes the wind and the sea. Now, I'm just going to pause there for a moment because I just love this imagery, right? Like if it was you and you were thinking about the wind blowing hard against you, can you imagine anything that would feel so futile as just shouting, "Stop it, wind"? Well, Jesus just says, "Be still." And the wind stops and the waves stop and it is still. And the disciples have been acting out of fear when they had woken Jesus and when they were exclaiming to him, "Don't you care that we're perishing?" But then Mark tells us one more detail, and that is that for that moment, the disciples actually are described to be fearing Jesus. Who is this man that even the wind and the waves obey him? And as we think about how we react in our lives as things that we don't understand are happening and we're afraid, and maybe we even get that moment where there's a little anger in our heart and we're exclaiming to God, "Do you not even care what's happening to me?" Jesus is there, calm. He already knew what was going to happen, and he's prepared to help us in those moments. And yeah, we don't even have the reaction maybe at that first moment of embracing the help we've gotten. There's a little fear still even then. But if you think about it for a moment, as Jesus asks his disciples, do you still not have faith? That's all God is asking for in that moment, a little bit of faith. And so as we think about that this week, have a great time in your week. Go out there and meet the challenges that are in front of you with a little bit of faith that Jesus is there to calm those winds and those waves that you're facing in your lives. Have a great week.